Well, so a few weeks ago, probably three or more, I did a video about upgrading this machine right here. I call it it's my B450 machine. Now, I put in a 4060 gigabyte, GeForce RTX video card, 8 gigs of VRAM. And I had researched it quite a bit. I mean, I had spent several weeks trying to figure out what I was going to buy. And I thought buying this, was going to kind of future-proof me. But I really had no intentions of upgrading the motherboard. This computer is working dandy, and I can't see it, being needed to be upgraded for quite a long time. So that was what I put in, and I fooled around with it for several weeks. And in some instances, it worked fairly normally. When I went on the internet and fooled around in Night Cafe or Midjourney or ChatGPT, it got a little bit warm. Runway, it got even warmer, especially when I was rendering, larger files of making videos from images. So I experienced my first, what they call, bottleneck. So for that, I'm grateful, and, because I learned so much. Honestly, I learned so much. In OBS, which is the main reason I was going to upgrade in the first place, because OBS wasn't really working all that great with the little 1050 Ti card that I had in it. Now that was also a PCIe Gen 4. And this NVIDIA card that I put in there was also a PCIe Gen 4. I had been looking at putting in something more reasonable, like a 3060 or a 3070 or even a 3080, which had a lot more RAM, 12 to 16 gigabytes of VRAM. This one only had 8. But, supposedly it was just more technically better. And I read a lot of forums and stuff, and people were saying things like, well, it doesn't really matter. You can just stick any card into just about anything. Anyway, I would suggest that that's not the case. That if your motherboard pretty much says, Gen 3 with 16 lanes, then you should buy a card that is a Gen 3 with 16 lanes to match it, as far as I'm concerned now. I mean, after everything I've been through. Now, what I did was I had this card, which I had previously tried to install in my Pro Tools machine, which was a DDR2 machine and had a Gen 2 socket. And this is a Gen 3 socket. So I had forgot about this thing. I had just shoved it off to the side and put it away, and was gonna, put it in my bin of things I'm gonna sell eventually, or, give away. So I found it. I went, well, in lieu of buying another. So what I decided to do then, before I found this, was I was gonna yank this out, the 4060, and put it in my other machine, which I need to replace the video card in it, and it's a B450 machine. So I'm pretty well convinced now that after everything I've been through that it'll just fit right in there, because it's a Gen, PCIe Gen 4 16 lanes. And then I was, going to buy something else. I was looking at the 360s, and then, but everything was Gen 4s that I was looking at, with the caveat in there of the the 3060, 3070, 3080s NVIDIA cards would do either or. You could go either way with them. In other words, they would fit into a PCIe 3 socket or a PCIe 4 socket. That seemed semi-logical, although I was a little bit skeptical after all the problems I had with the 4060 sitting in that Gen 3 socket. Now, one main statement I want to say out of all of this is, don't let anybody tell you that it's okay to just throw a Gen 4 into a Gen 3 machine, and it might work out in some instances depending on the hardware and all that, but I think for the most part it does not work out. Now, this 1040 was just not acting right at all. It was, aspect ratios were screwing up, definitely overheating. So I replaced it with this thing, and this is a 8 gig RX 570 Radon thing. So this thing did not have to have anything installed for it. It just went right in. Linux had all the drivers for it, and it's actually just working beautifully. I gotta say, I have no issues. It idles a little bit warmer than normal, but it idles at about 40 degrees centigrade, 41 degrees centigrade, something like that. And the most I've been able to get it up to is about 56 degrees centigrade. So, in any case, in my travels, trying to figure out, how to look at the specs of this new video card, I came across a command line for the terminal that's just a beautiful thing. So before I end this video, we're gonna go look at that in terminology. So all right, so I should be down here somewhere, and just want to show you. Okay, I'm at 51 degrees centigrade. With that other card, I would have already been up to but 78, 79, and it would have been red. So this thing has not turned orange or red. The little thermometer, when it gets, does caution when it gets up into the 60s, and then it does red when it gets close to 70s. All right, so let's go into the terminology. So we go Control Alt INS, or whatever that instance. And I can't remember the, so I'm going to type in history. Whoops, it's not yesterday, is it? No. Old man typing. Yeah. And I wasn't ever a very good typist, so there you have it. Enter. All right, so this gives you a list of all the commands that you've done and typed in. You can see where I've used the history command before. Like if I found something online and typed it in, then all of these were different things. This is the one down here that I found. So let me go ahead and make that blue and go down here, and now all I got to do is click the center scroll wheel, and there's the command comes up. I'll hit enter. There we go. It should be down here, not obscuring this. So anyway, this little display is just so great. It shows exactly your whole graphics line. Device 1 is your card, and it gives you everything you need to know. This is the 570 is the one here. I'm pointing at things like, and anyway, it just tells you everything you need to know about it. This one thing was built in between 2016 and 2020, and it's a PCI Gen 3. All right, 16 lanes. So I know that they started making the 8 gigabyte version of this card towards the end of its existence, the last year and a half or so. So I'm assuming that it's probably about 2019, 2020. So this card's 4 or 5 years old. Okay, the next device is my, here's the, what do they call the webcam that I got. And it's these are the drivers for it. There's another camera I have that's in here too, but I have it unplugged. Then here's my screen. I don't think this is the television screen. This is just saying what the screen does. It's not really talking about the television. It's talking about the surface of the screen. So I'm running everything now at 1080p. That's what this card is designed for. It's not going to go past 1080p. You're not going to get it. It'll do probably 4K or 2K or even 1440p, but it's really built to run smoothly and all day long at 1080p. And for what I want to do, that's really totally fine. I will admit that the other card, the 4060, had a little bit sharper picture. This is a little fuzzy around the edges, but I'm not going to complain about it. And then this is calling my monitor, which is really this television, and here's the code for that, blah, blah, blah. It maxes out at 1080p. So, its aspect ratio is really normal, 69, whatever. It actually gives you the dimensions, and that's the diagonal dimensions of this television. It's kind of amazing, the size of it all, but so that's all. I mean, it puts in your low latency kernel, and just gives you all the information you need to understand the whole system. In other words, this is showing you, I know for a lot of people you're not going to read this. This is not for the computer nerds. All you guys, I know that you know everything. This is for the people that are like me, that are learning. But anyway, it gives you the whole, from the card to the camera, to the screen, to the television monitor. Anyway, that's the little code right there to find out everything you want to know about not just your video card, but the whole system that's involved with it. Look at this. I got 16 upgrades. So let's go ahead and do that while we're here. So I go down here and I type in sudo. That's not it. sudo super user. Don't ask me about the do. An app. That's the Dubane program for downloading apps and things. And then I type in update first. They don't do this in Arch, or Manjaro. You just go in and you type in. There's another little code that you don't use. It's Pac-Man, not app, but you don't do update. It's a little code, and you don't have to go through this. This will ask me for my credentials. All right. So that was saying 16, but now it's saying 14 packages can be upgraded. And then it kind of starts telling you what it is. So then you do it again. Sudo, not sudo. Sorry, kids. This is professional show business, as my buddy Mike would say. And then I'm going to do app again, apt. And then this time you go up, grade, which is going to go ahead and upgrade the system for you. Hit enter. All right, that stops you there because it's going to ask you if you want to keep going, because after this operation, 168 kilobytes of additional disk space will be used. Well, anybody who knows the difference between kilobytes and megabytes and all that know that kilobytes is nothing on the grand scheme of things. But it'll tell you all the packages that will be upgraded. The following packages have been cut back: Tumblr, Tumblr Common, Tumblr Plugins. I don't even know what that is. unless it's some sort of a that Tumblr, which is some sort of a social media thing. So, but these are all the different things that are going to be installed. Looks like they're going to update Thunar, Task Manager, all kinds of stuff, XF config. So I'm going to go you hit Y and then hit enter. And then it's just going to go ahead and do its thing. It's done. Now, what's blowing my mind about this is that's the fastest that this has ever gone. And I've noticed that about everything with this machine now. When you going from software to software, going from on the internet, everything just goes super quick. All right, there's still 5 things in there that haven't been downloaded. I won't fool around with that. I'll check that out after I'm done with this video. All right, we're going to get out of terminology. So that's a Control Shift End. All right, now let me pause this and all right, so there we are. Anyway, probably talked enough about all this. Again, don't listen to anybody if they start telling you it doesn't matter about, PCIe slots in comparison to, what graphics card you can put in there. If you match it up, I gotta say, this card that I've got in here now is probably about 1/5 as powerful as the 4060 card, but it is making my machine run so much better, so much quicker, no problems. OBS is just running completely normal, like it should, for the first time that I've had this machine going, because I never had a Gen 3 card in a Gen 3 slot. And it's just that simple. Okay, my friends. Adios, mi amigos y mi amigas, and buenos dias. Yes.